Did you ever hear anything from Budnick?
It says he's gonna be here. But I don't,
Maybe he's got
yeah, it
water.
says that,
Can't believe
it
that.
says
Can
he
we
was
turn
gonna
up
be
the
here.
volume on this end?
I think it's on speaker.
Yep, just a minute.
Budnick is in. He was the last one to respond. Want me to respond? Is
Yeah,
Budnick
say,
really
hey,
in?
Budnick, where are you? All right, you got Cheryl on there to talk about the match on Main, so I don't want to skip to that. You want to do your little
Yeah, we can do that.
quick things first, or whatever you want to do?
No, then that way she knows it. Right around. Can you hear us, Cheryl?
Can, yes. Good evening, everyone.
Howdy. We're gonna just jump forward and let you take the floor and have at it, okay?
Okay, very good.
Go ahead.
All right. I know that you have received 4 of the worksheets back from 4 business owners relative to the Match on Main grant. And I've had an opportunity to review those 4 worksheets. And I thought maybe one of the things that might be helpful to you is to talk about maybe some of the process that you would go through in narrowing these 4 down to the top 1 or the top 2 that you would choose to submit to the MEDC for consideration. So as you think about that, I think one of the key elements is to reflect on the redevelopment ready community work that you've done, because you've set some priorities, you've established some strategies, you've identified some goals that you'd like to see associated with the redevelopment process. So one of the questions would be, which of these projects that you have before you fit best with what you have already identified to be priority in redevelopment ready community efforts? So that would be one of the criteria to utilize. A second criteria then would be to take a look at the projects and compare them, compare the scope of the project with the criteria that is identified in the planning guide from MEDC. And in that planning guide, it speaks to what are eligible expenses or eligible uses of project funds, and what are ineligible uses of project funds. So you'd want to be sure that the projects fit with what is an eligible project or what is not. And then the third area that comes to mind that you might want to use as a way of evaluating the 4 projects would be, what is the MEDC's priority in this grant? And we know that the MEDC is typically interested in job creation. They're interested in converting unused space into used space, revenue producing space. And so as you look at the 4 projects, you should perhaps consider which of these projects best fit the priority that MEDC has for this grant. In other words, project A might be a great project, but if it doesn't fit what MEDC is looking for in this particular instance, it might not be the best project to submit for their consideration. So those are just 3 areas that you might want to have discussion about and conversation about as you were reviewing the worksheets and making a decision. As I said earlier, I looked at the worksheets that have been submitted, and there's good basic information in all of them, but there needs to be a lot of detail added to the worksheet, and that Paula and the other staff can actually add to the City of Laingsburg's application that will go to the MEDC. So I think there's still quite a bit of work to be done to create a really solid application for these proposed projects. And I think I'll stop there and take questions or listen to your conversation around the proposals that you've received.
So Cheryl, I didn't actually copy all the projects for them just because at this point, I really feel like after our discussion today that we're probably going to ask them to improve upon their applications that they provided us. So I only gave them like a synopsis of the three because I think we all agree the one does not qualify.
Okay, that's fine.
I haven't told them that one yet, but I will. So the one that's not on there is the eye doctor. And she's asking for a piece of equipment. And it appears to me that equipment is not covered. So it says in here, one of these papers, in this match on Main guide, expenses that are not eligible, land contract, lease payments, utilities, equipment. But, there are a couple things that are eligible that we call it like the purchase of a point of sale system is eligible, but it clearly says equipment, and she wants to buy a piece of equipment that allows her staff to do like some of that dilating of the eyes and those, like if you've ever been to like a big eye care center, they have like all these little helpers who help you. And so they have these machines. Well, I think she wants a machine that does that. And you guys can be the deciding factor, but it says all eligible expenses must be otherwise acceptable to the MEDC. But ahead of that, it had listed some things, but down here it says equipment is not. So you can have technical assistance, you can have interior renovation, floors, walls, ceiling, electrical, furniture, installation of permanent kitchen or other equipment, and or fire suppression. One of our applicants wants a furnace, so I'm not sure for sure whether that counts or not.
And we do have a contact person at MEDC that if there is a need for clarification, we can call and get that clarification.
Yeah, so I was wondering about the furnace. After we spoke today, I thought about that, so.
Right.
But just a piece of equipment, it doesn't appear that that is,
That was the only thing she was asking.
yep, $4,200 or something just for that piece of equipment. So, all three of the others are asking for
But
the.
carpet or something like he's got.
Right, carpet is covered.
That's
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah, expenses for interior building renovation items, including rehabilitation of floors, walls, ceiling, rooms, electrical improvements, lighting, light fixtures, furniture and display renovations, installation of permanent kitchen or other equipment, and or fire suppression or other compliance items.
Other equipment.
Which I would assume like a furnace. I don't think they could list like dishwasher, washer, dryer, whatever, but I think but we can.
Mandatory.
We can
items.
ask for clarification on the furnace.
So this only
Well-
covers one, if you pick one, like it can't cover more than one. right?
We can pick two.
Two.
Yeah. And so our thought is, because these applications that we received today, these are my questions on the first one. These are my questions on the second one, and I didn't finish.
For the people
Correct.
to give back.
I did not finish writing down the questions for the third one. So if I have that many questions, imagine how many questions the MEDC is going to have. So after speaking with Cheryl today, we originally thought, well, we'd ask you guys to take these to 2, but we're thinking we should take all 3 of them to Cheryl and let them improve on these, and that way they might weed themselves out, because maybe they won't do the work.
I agree. There's not really enough information here to,
I mean, we have the
Yeah,
actual
cuts.
applications, so they did fill them out, but like, if you look at, this one right here, you know, they got name of business and all that, but then, you know, they didn't fill in the square footage information, they didn't fill in, you know, what their taxable value is, they didn't fill in, you know, their project scope, or, you know, that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I got pages of pages, this was my staff's handwriting, not the person that turned it in. So, you know, and I think that with all of that information lacking, and it's just not competitive. It's, I mean, it would not be a good use of our time to turn them in the way they are. So our thought is that we would just send all 3 of them to Cheryl, and then we would just need to schedule a special meeting to pick 2.
Cheryl, do you think that any job creation is probably maybe at the top of their list for?
Not necessarily. That's a good
Okay.
question because it's come up. But not necessarily, because I did ask for clarification on that from the MEDC last week. And their response was that they would be evaluating all of the applications against all of the criteria. I believe it's in step 4 of the process. But that if an application ranked highly, even if it didn't have much for job creation, if all the other factors were ranked very high, it could still potentially be an application that was chosen for the award. So because one or more doesn't have much or maybe any job creation, I don't think that should necessarily rule it out if you feel that the remaining parts of the application are very strong.
Okay, because out of these 3, the first one at least does say something about creating a new job or jobs. I don't know how many that would create.
Utilize new space.
Right. If she's putting in a few, but that may even be
She's saying she's gonna create jobs. Yep.
correct, but is she gonna use this for tanning pieces of equipment?
See, she can't. So within there,
Well, when you read that, if a restaurant can buy a piece of equipment, why can't a tanner or an eye doctor buy a piece of equipment that would be the same thing that is in
we'll have
there?
to ask the MEDC.
Yeah.
What equipment qualifies.
Because when you
but-
read that, it
Yeah.
says equipment.
maybe they're referring to like
Right.
substantial items required to run your business versus optional items to expand your business.
Well, and I
But point
think
of
some of
sale
the,
would seem like that.
I would tell you some of the reasoning for that would probably be because equipment can up and walk off, but improvements to buildings.
Sure.
Sticks
Yeah.
around.
I mean, that would be my thought for their reasoning on not wanting to purchase equipment. So.
But we don't know that this person
So
is
this is
purchasing
one,
equipment.
Yeah, we do.
We do,
So, I
okay.
mean, I have the applications here. There is some equipment in hers, but there's some she's buying herself. So, you know, maybe the installation of the equipment is covered, maybe the, you know,
Rooms.
whatever. The rest of it is that the space she wants to go into is above the hair salon that's currently there. And it needs lots of renovation. So we feel like we could make a better application out of that than she's given us.
But do we have a dollar amount for each one of these?
Yes.
We
you-
do.
I mean, you want us
No,
to
no,
copy these? 'Cause,
No,
I mean,
I'm
that's,
just wondering,
but this is 25,000,
all
right? And
3
they
of them
have a
want
match.
$25,000.
okay, so
And
they're
the match-
basically trying to get the amount that,
Yeah.
The match.
that they're getting, okay,
Yep, all
All
3 of them have.
which is all we need to know.
Right,
That's fine.
And then
except
they,
for the one, she only wanted 4,200 for her.
oh, I know.
Yep. But I mean, if that was all that was on there, which, I mean, we could still ask her if she wants to work with Cheryl and make a better application. Maybe she wants to do more than that.
Right.
But the, what she gave us, you know, so this, she's got like 3 tanning beds, a stand-up tanning bed, which I don't know if those are gonna be covered. Drywall, paint and lights.
So there is
So,
some solid fixture there, and then there's something that is being used,
right,
just like I'm saying, the restaurant wants a new grill or fire suppression, or that's
Yeah.
equipment.
right. But
So,
there are some pieces of equipment that are specifically noticed in here that you can have.
So say you wanted to add air conditioning or something like that,
Yeah.
that might be more of a.
or
permanent
heating, like
fixture.
you're saying.
Right,
Yeah.
but I did question that, and I think we'll just have to ask the MEDC if it is, you know, if it works or not to do a furnace, which I think it does. So, I mean, they're eligible expenses which may be reimbursed with grant funding from Match on Main. So there's a whole list of them, like technical assistance, that includes conceptual renderings, interior, exterior floor plans. So even if somebody just wanted to get plans to do this, she could get plans from the architect paid for, and I think we could increase her application to cover that instead of the tanning bed. And then her match or her money she's gonna put in could cover the tanning beds.
Plus, it may help her in getting it.
Right,
I mean, if,
but
are we,
expenses.
are we thinking right on that, Cheryl?
You're right. And, you know, on that application, there wasn't a lot of dollars for the renovation and the rehab. But Paula, you know, is talking about the amount of work that needs to be done on that upper level. So there may well be a case that can be made with quotes about what the cost of that renovation and rehab might be. And that might make a much stronger application, again, comparing it to the expectations of the grant for that project than focusing on the tanning beds.
Okay.
I mean, they'll pay for, you know, marketing and technology to assist in connecting with customers, website upgrades, e-commerce integration, operational changes, shifting from dine-in to carry-out, purchase of point of sale system or inventory expenses for retail goods. But I mean, then further down here, it lists things it will not cover. And it says, you know, other than these things up above, we're not covering equipment. So is the furnace equipment? I don't think it is, but a tanning bed is a piece of equipment, so I don't know. I mean, so we can get clarification on that, but what we're suggesting is we don't have enough information to make a decision. Because these are incomplete and not detailed enough. They don't express what the MEDC is looking for. And I don't mean that in any mean way. I'm just saying, if we want these people to get any money, we need to help them a little bit more to get them there. And Cheryl is willing over the next couple of weeks, and we are too, to help, you know, improve upon these. And then if all 4 of them aren't, then they might weed themselves out.
Well, then I
mean, that's kind of.
don't see any reason to waste a lot of time on,
That's kind of what
Yeah.
I'm, you know, thinking, is that if you guys are still in and we still want to keep going, then we're gonna send these guys to Cheryl, see if we can get a better application put together. And our end is basically, how long have you been working with the community? What kind of things have you done, you know, as the DDA, what kind of things have you done? What is our capacity to manage the grant? I mean, our questions are pretty simple. These are what's gonna make the grant.
I think we do have to keep going, because we've already invited them, they've already made an effort, they just need to work on it. We couldn't not keep going.
Yeah, and I mean, if we were to turn these in right now the way they are, I mean, I don't think we have a snowball's chance of being funded.
So I think you're on the right path.
And after her and I talked today, we said, well, why knock it down to 2? Why don't we just see if any of them want to try?
harder.
Right, because they're gonna have to put in the effort. In 2 weeks, they need to put in the effort.
And let 'em
Now,
know
my
there's-
suggestion
let
is
'em
not
know
that we
there's
accept
four.
any more right now. I mean, we had a deadline, these people got it in. I don't think,
They have, yeah, try, so then we put it back to them.
I say the only ones we send to Cheryl are these. And we just say, if you guys want to work, because it's gonna take some work to make a good application out of it.
Is that all right with you to send these to you then, Cheryl?
Yes, I'm fine with receiving them. I think the next step needs to come to these applicants from the city of Laingsburg, whether that's the DDA or that's Paula or however you communicate in your local community. But I think the next step needs to be communicated to the applicants from the city. And,
Okay.
and let them know that, that I have their application and that there's considerable work that needs to be done in order to get detail into it that would make it be, I like Paula's word, competitive with other applications that are received by the MEDC.
Okay,
Because it's not that we don't think their projects are good, we don't think their application is competitive enough to get that $25,000 funding.
I do think that we also need to remind them that no matter, even if they work really hard on this and really improve their application, that also is not a guarantee that they're going to be
Right.
selected.
Yep.
But they should try hard.
So that was kind of what we came up with. If you guys agree with that, then Cheryl's on board and we would probably need to schedule another meeting in order to whittle this down to 2 if they don't whittle themselves.
Do you need a motion to keep moving forward?
I don't think so. So
No.
unless we get something, more concrete, then we'll move on. Then,
Trying to remember.
when you say we need, do you think that we'll need, like, they have a couple of weeks to get this together and get it?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the deadline was.
But do we need to do anything before our next meeting, say?
Yes, because
Paula,
they do.
I think we have to have everything in by the 9th. That's when our deadline is.
Got like 2 weeks and these are due back.
They didn't give
So-
them much time at all.
No, they don't.
They've wasted time by not.
They
submitting
get
a
so
good
many.
Well,
application.
plus we've given these, we've already given them since your last meeting. We,
Yeah,
got
sent
a
that
hold of
out right
people
away.
and so, and we've been posting it on Facebook and trying to get the word out. So do you know what the date is, Cassie?
I think it's the 9th of November, our application is due.
Okay, I thought there was a timeline in here, but I'm not seeing
Which
it.
is literally,
So 3 people need to get.
2 weeks.
right?
Mhm.
And then how do we know how to?
Well, if we get down to 2, I could cancel the meeting, but otherwise I'm gonna need you guys to make a decision on which 2 go.
Well, even if you get to, correct?
Yeah, probably, I suppose, unless you make the motion now to send, if only 2 end up, then you just send those 2 out of these 4 applicants that we have.
I would say we send even 1 if we get 1
Right,
that's good,
Yep.
that
So,
Cheryl thinks
yeah,
is good enough to send, then we send it.
the application closes on November 9th.
So if they get it back in time and it is worthy of,
Right, so they would need to
Submitting.
work, this week, next week, whatever with.
it gets submitted, as far as we're concerned, I would
But
think.
what if I have 3
I
of them?
agree.
If you have 3, then we'll,
Call a
then
special.
we'll,
Then we
yeah,
need an,
Okay,
then we'll meet.
so I mean, I'm just wondering while everybody's here, if we can look at a day that would mean, because no, the 9th, I mean, we can't wait till the 9th.
No,
No.
you have to submit
You know,
that day.
I think we need to know by the 5th or at the latest.
And she'll need to know when she needs
Right.
to meet with them by.
So, I mean, like, so we got all next,
Applicants need to know the
well,
critical
no, that's like-
Right.
timelines.
they got like 6-7 days, to try and
This
improve
week.
this. Yeah.
basically you have to tell them by,
Right.
by
I would say
Monday,
next Monday
by
is
Monday.
about it.
You have
Okay,
one
so
What is that?
if-
That's
could you
the
guys meet
second?
on the 3rd, 4th, or 5th, or, I mean, what are you thinking there? Is there, no, the 1st I can't meet.
First
The
of all.
4th, how about October 4th? I mean,
Okay.
November 4th.
Could be on that day, but if you had.
What about the 2nd? That's election day.
there a Zoom? Can you do Zoom?
Probably not. I mean, technically, unless we're supposed to, I mean, we could have a Zoom option. If you're sick, you could come via Zoom.
Let's just make it 4.
Okay.
Because I don't think
I mean, but we gotta make it,
Yeah.
We'll never get everybody.
Those are the other
and,
people.
and we can get,
I mean,
But-
Amanda nor I could be here the first because that's the Victor Township meeting unless we meet earlier or something. I don't know if you would be earlier, but
I'm sure there's, other DDA members.
the second,
right, that's what I'm saying. We're not gonna hit everybody on the button anyway.
so.
But some of those that aren't here now might.
Well, I was just kind of looking for, if that works.
If we have
I'll
3,
get it
we'll meet
scheduled.
on the 4th.
Okay,
If we don't have,
6 o'clock on the 4th.
yeah,
I'll
if we
just-
only have 2 or 1, they go in.
3 for 4 at 6.
Yep.
Is that all right?
That works.
Do
for
we need
me.
a motion? We don't need a motion to do that, do we?
We can make one, don't matter to me.
Let's make one.
Okay.
Somebody,
Motion to,
if there's only 2 or less, they're automatically admitted.
Yep.
If you think they're qualified, and Cheryl thinks they're qualified.
Okay.
And if there's
If
3,
not, we meet on this.
we meet.
Mhm. You're the second?
All in favor?
Alright.
Anyone opposed?
Got it.
There.
At least I could always submit that as
Yes,
part of the
yes.
grant. Cheryl, you gone?
No, I'm here.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. So we're gonna try to, or they're going to try, not so much we. They're gonna try to get back to those people, those applicants, and see if they can't get them to sure up the application. And if they are, if she thinks they're good and competitive and you agree, then if there's 2 or more, we will meet on the 4th and decide who is out. Okay, who the one would be out.
If there's
If
3 or
there's,
more.
if there's 2 or less, they're automatically going to go in.
Assuming that we feel that the application is competitive or no.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. Yes,
Okay, I'm
okay,
fine with that, and I appreciate it until the 4th, because there's really quite a bit of work for each one of these people to do, so.
yeah, they're gonna have a tough time getting it back and getting it so that it is more competitive
Right,
I mean,
by
I'm
the
just
4th.
hoping by the 4th, we at least have a good idea of who's participating and who's not. That will probably help me a lot.
right.
Okay,
All right, very good, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Okay.
Megan's on, it looks like.
Okay.
So we should be able to, we can't seem to make that projector work. It just keeps saying no signal. Got any tricks? No?
I don't know.
All right.
What is it wireless or is it?
Well, we don't, it
No,
looks like
it's
it has.
directly wired and it's still,
So I'm like, well, we have it directly wired and it's still not lighting up, so we don't know what's going on, so we're gonna do our best to look at these 2 computers and,
See what's going on.
yep,
try to hash it out, and if you guys can try to muddle us through the mud, then we'll go from there.
What you guys are looking on this screen?
I got both screens that are, I don't know, Cassie, is the other screen not gonna show the chambers now? It's up high, it looks like I must be,
It should show whoever's talking on Zoom. So if Megan starts talking and
when she starts sharing, it
screen,
should show.
So it should
Yeah.
be able to pull that
Yep.
up. Okay. All right, so. Go ahead and get started then.
Yep,
Yeah, have at it.
All right.
and we
so-
gave them these,
Okay, so we've got the board from that other meeting. Great. So what we did is we went through and took a look at the options we talked about at the last meeting in regards to the sales. So the vertical application and then the triangles in a tipped application. So more of a screening. And we evaluated that with we've built a model and evaluated that with the sun angle at different times of the day. And mainly looking in around July, June, when it would be pretty warm out there in our longest days to work with. And we're gonna go through those with you. Megan's on, she's gonna share the model that we have, so we can kind of show you different angles and we can run through. If there's questions on times of day, we can actually pull that up and take a look at that.
Oh, cool.
We looked at being able to have 10-foot clearance underneath and making sure that we could cover as much of that area as we could. And what we found is that we aren't going to have as much shade duration and coverage as what I believe everybody was anticipating. That time of the day, the projection of that shade ends up moving quite quickly through the area that we're looking at for the audience and for the amphitheater stage itself. So we wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that. It may require us to redefine what our objective is with what we're doing with the shade. And is it the stage that we need to protect, or is it the audience right now trying to do both? One option is not really covering that. There have been a couple of other options that have been discussed and noted. Some of them a little more viable than others. One that we also have plugged into the model is looking at trees. So if we did some tree planting out there, what could that end up being? Now, the difference between the trees and maybe the shade that we features that we were looking at here is that those are pretty thin, right? So even if we have a vertical shade banner panel, whatever, that's a very small area that's covering that. You put a tree, you have a full round canopy, and that ends up projecting a larger shadow than what you get from just the vertical panel.
We're
And
playing with trees.
so we were looking at trees and what options there might be there. So we got in the model, we're going to show today a 15-foot tall tree, just kind of something to take a look at as a more juvenile type tree, and then a 30-foot tree, which is what all we were looking at for, where it shows a little bit more coverage in there. So, all right,
She
Megan,
starts showing.
I know you
hopefully
can't see
they
me,
can
but
see.
can you go ahead and share the model?
Okay.
Yep, can
Gonna-
you,
Want to look at this because it'll be.
Yeah, we
closer
can
for
see
you.
it.
you see it okay? All right, good. You can hear me okay, right?
Yeah.
You sound good.
Yeah.
Good.
So do you see the shade it projects? That's what we're looking at there.
So this was the first sort of option we looked at, which were the triangle sunshade devices. This is at 2 p.m., 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then 8 is pretty far out there. So we don't see a whole lot of shade for the performers, more for the audience. But really the shade that the structure is shading is all the way back out here.
And how big are those shades that are in that picture?
That are in the model? here?
Yes.
Those were, go ahead, Megan.
I believe they're about
Basically
30
length.
feet high. Yeah, so each, 25. Each one is about 25 feet.
Okay, so there's about 25 foot between the poles, or maybe 30 foot, and then the shade is about 25 foot long.
Yeah, approximately 25-foot triangle.
Triangle,
Mhm.
okay.
Yes. And they're 10 feet high.
And that's at 6 o'clock right there that you have right now.
Yes, it is.
Okay. The other thing that we were noticing on these before we were looking at this, and the times that you have that they printed out, which doesn't matter, but you have a 1 o'clock, a 4 o'clock, and a 7 o'clock. And at 7 o'clock, everything's pretty much covered the whole area. But the sun has dropped down considerably at that time. Is this in July also? So the height of the sun is at its peak.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, I guess what I have right now is in August. This is July, which is not much different.
Not much difference.
August, July.
So the program that we use, we geolocate the park. And then
Mhm.
based off of time of year, time of day for sun angle to that. So this should be pretty accurate for what we're looking at. Again, we're using software based on what they're pulling together from tables. So there
Right.
could be a little bit of,
Because the
Very
highest point would be what, June 21st, 2nd?
Yep.
That's the first day
Well,
of
this
summer.
was June 19th.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can
That's
even
right.
go,
So, but if you look at,
Or
could you
18.
look at this real quick, just so you
Sure.
get, okay, if you look at, this is when we were down there
Mm-hmm.
and you can see a shade, see it?
Yep, that's what we've been looking at in all these pictures.
Okay, see that shade?
Remember, we looked at
Right.
that earlier.
yep. So that's covering in from the roof.
What roof is there now? And,
Yes.
and the depth of this building is not, can't be more than 20 foot, is it? Probably don't know exactly, but
It is probably in that neighborhood.
in that neighborhood of 20 foot.
Mhm.
And you have that much shade there. So Richard was saying the same thing. What, just because don't think, we're thinking exactly what you said when you started, that it's not doing what we kind of were thinking it would do. Unless it's at 6 o'clock is pretty good. And at 6 o'clock is when the performers are going to be there. But before that, after that doesn't matter because it's going down. So you're going to get it all the time.
And it's the duration of time you're really gonna have this shadow projected in that area.
Right.
Because the later you get into the season, the faster that's gonna disappear.
Drop.
as
Right.
well.
Exactly. Yep.
So, and we did look at placing these in multiple locations.
Okay.
Mhm.
So the version that we have up right now, that's the one on top, right? Yep. So one was
Yep.
over the audience, and then we moved it back in order to try to project that shade
Shade
further out.
Yep.
And that brings it up a little bit, moving it back.
It
it
really
didn't
kind of
really
shades
change.
underneath it more than.
And
it has.
angling it, like I had originally thought from the get-go, isn't
What time
gonna
is
gain
that?
because of the height of the sun either. It's gonna come down.
So the
It's
trick,
not gonna go out.
right, so
Because
the
the straight
trick to
ones
be
are
able to
here.
cover it is you have to be able to lower it.
Yeah,
And being able to lower it, that means you're gonna end up cutting that portion of the venue off from the rest of the park.
Mhm.
which is exactly what we don't want because 90% of them were up there in the first place,
Correct.
or a
So-
large number of them.
So that, and then the lower we get, we're more likely to have damage potential. I mean,
Yeah,
if it's
sure.
closer to where people can reach it inadvertently or inadvertently, people are going to jump on it, hang on it, whatever. So it becomes
And
a
that's why I
maintenance
gave
issue.
you guys these pictures of some actual events, so you could see, just look how much shade's over there already. And look at all this shade these people are sitting in, and then later in the evening, it just, I mean, I just don't see that it's, I mean, $100,000 problem or whatever this. These poles are, there's a lot more poles in there.
Yeah, we
and-
have these models currently with 8-inch poles, but we did not move to structural analysis on this just yet. The taller these poles are, the more they flex.
Yeah.
The thinner the pole is, the more it flexes.
The height isn't gonna do us a whole lot of good there anyway, correct? Because the sun's too high. If that makes sense.
Yeah, you get a little, you want to make sure that in the triangular shapes that we are getting that up a little bit higher to be able to make sure we don't have anything hanging out on that. The water on it can shed off easier. And you do get some additional blockage or shade from having that vertical component to that shape, to the layout in there. So
Were there more complaints from the performers or from the audience or both?
Cassie, you got that letter?
Well, I saw that, but.
Oh,
mean,
did I
it's-
send that letter? Oh, good.
It's okay, but is the objective I mean, obviously, in
We've
this,
had
we're trying to
complaints
do
from
both.
But
But the key here should be the performer, right? I mean, you can bring an umbrella through the audience.
Well, right, yes, yes and no. I mean, but we've also got a lot of people that want some shade, but I feel like, I mean, that's why Adam and I started talking about trees, is that we could plant some trees out there and do less vision impact. Because we can cut them so that we can limb them off as they grow.
Right.
And, I mean, I had Jason from Van Etta's over and I asked them guys to put some trees in the model, and you guys can see it, but it really does provide it. And then if there's something we can do, there's a shelter itself.
What about an eyelash or something off the shelter?
yeah, and there could be a shade feature off of that. We've looked at a couple of different potentials for that as well. That will that will help shade and keep it a little cooler throughout the heat of the day. When you get to a certain point, you are gonna get sunlight underneath it. But ideally, that's late enough in the day that maybe that's a little cooler.
Well,
Yeah,
if they have
and you might
15,
get-
20 minutes or a half hour of bad times, but the rest is pretty good. I mean, to shade the whole dang thing out isn't the purpose either. We're doing it in the summer for a reason.
Right,
I mean,
Right,
But
like
there are a
you
couple-
set 2 poles out there and fiber on off the roof, off the edge of the roof. And, you know,
Yep.
angle it down, you're protecting the performer and then if you plan. a few
It shouldn't
trees out
affect the
amongst
sound.
I mean, we don't need to
audience.
put 100 trees out there, but if we
Right.
put a couple
Right,
that, I mean, because the ones we placed out there, they're gonna create shade in about 10 years, I think. We're gonna need to buy some more mature trees, which we had a conversation today. Apparently at one time, we planned on having a little nursery out at the lagoons, and they've got some really mature maples out there. So if we could move those,
well, that's not that big a deal.
they're right in his way
You
anyway.
know, Big John come in and move them. How big is the
But that'd be a
Big.
hell of a lot cheaper
Yeah,
than,
right.
How big a spade you need?
9 foot? Get the biggest
I don't know
9
that tree
foot.
guy. I just calmed down.
you want to show them some trees?
yeah, Megan,
Yeah, we have so we have two options. So I'm not sure what how big your current trees are, but these ones are just the 15-foot. We thought was a good range of still being able to move them, but then these will turn into like the 30-foot eventually. So what this looks like as a mature tree. So this is 1 p.m., 2, 3, 4, 5,
Want to shade?
6,
Fine.
and 7.
Have we trimmed up? We're thinking that won't bother the vision or no?
How far are those trees apart? About 30 foot or 40 foot?
Might be closer to 40. Let me
Yeah,
check.
measuring tool.
32. It's
32.
pretty. Mhm,
I got pretty good eyes on that. I guess every 40 foot, huh?
mhm.
Megan, can
I
you-
like that.
We also did a 4,
That gives it a more natural look too. or-
just so you can see this too. That's 5 o'clock.
Is that the
and
same height
6.
tree and same?
those are 30-foot trees.
Oh, so that's a little bigger.
30
tree. Okay.
Same
30-foot
as the
tree.
previous, but 4 trees instead of.
Mhm.
Okay.
And these are in a slightly different location. So this is the 4 trees, just so you can see it again. And that's the 3.
And we can
So,
play with where
4.
we put them, so they don't, you know, if you guys are interested in that option.
Megan, can you show the sight line from
Mm-hmm.
approximately pavilion is back to the stage with that?
Yep. So this is looking out from the pavilion. And this is the 4 tree option.
I think, I
Next.
mean,
Beautiful.
Essentially showing those
I
end up
know.
at 10 feet, so.
We're lobbing you right out of the tree here.
sorry.
Okay.
Well, no, not yet.
I'll still be on
See
my
perfect,
round,
eh? All right, well, not yet, because we still need something off the.
Yeah, that's right.
We still need
But
something.
they
off
just
the-
didn't seem to provide what, you know, the shape that we wanted when we got them in this, you know, it just doesn't.
That's why you gotta do that though, because
It's
if you
worth it,
don't, it's, yeah, I mean, literally, we'd have been so off.
And after
Spend
this-
that money.
and after this came
Everybody's like,
back-
what'd you do that for?
I said, I asked Adam, do you think you could throw some trees in there for me? And I mean, I really liked it. I thought the trees, it looks better. It
It looks
just,
just more natural and not.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I still think you need the parapet off the.
And now that
So-
we have the
Can I see
model
the
built,
board?
we can
Yep.
add things to this and be able to look at time of day shadowing, and be able to check all that stuff. Takes a little bit to get the
Like-
model built, but once, adding trees or changing the configuration, we have quite a bit more flexibility.
Small awning, because if that was 6 o'clock when we were there and you could see the shade already inside, but it wasn't in, it was dead in our
But
face.
that,
the
yeah.
sun was- So if you can cut that, any,
Well, and like we were saying, if you put your equipment on this, I guess I did send it to him, Cassie. Sorry, Brent probably didn't see it. If they put their equipment on the south side, then, you know, that would probably not overheat it.
It just says.
We gotta type up version or something.
well, that was one of their other issues. They had trouble with the heat on their equipment, which puts off a ton of heat plus
That's what
sides.
we're doing cold.
And so then you turn up. At those trees, this looks so much better.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And we looked, at we have looked at some concepts of putting two poles out in front of the stage and being able to look back at some, either an attachment to the amphitheater or something else. But the issue that we need to check into is whether or not it needs to be freestanding or it can actually connect to the building, because it wasn't structurally designed for it. It may be capable of handling it. They are pretty sizable glulam beams in that, so it looks pretty stout.
Yeah.
But we'd have to run through the calcs to make sure that that could be attached right there.
Is that 6 o'clock right there?
Yes, it is.
Yep, okay.
And that's
I mean,
4 trees,
that's pretty
30
good.
foot.
See, the one to
letter?
the left is
Okay.
literally not doing anything but aesthetics, but still,
David did it.
it would still be a place for someone to set if they wanted
got
shade.
Mhm.
And then if you
Yeah.
don't want shade, you stay behind the tree from the path all the way over to the pavilion and you're in sun. I mean, a lot of people want to be in the sun. But at least the performer is not staring into it and melting down.
Well, and I think that was some of it, is that I still wanted to provide a sun option for people, because I think some people, when they're going to an outdoor event, want to sit in the sun.
Yeah, they're not going there to get underneath
The shade tree.
the shade tree.
But some people want the shade.
Oh,
Sure.
So-
some people have to have the shade. if they're
Right,
gonna
true.
participate.
And then as we talked about it, we had, we kind of have two different problems, Do we shade the audience or do we shade the amphitheater, like we talked last week? And it's like, well, obviously we want the band to be cool, but we have some people who want sun and some people who want shade in the audience. So, and when you look at these pictures, I feel like these people have a lot of shade. I think our next problem is making sure the sound is up there. Not worrying about where the shade is, because they have some, and the amphitheater.
I think that you can spend another 30 grand on speakers and we got two of them sitting here that need to get
Well, that's what Dave and I. are
jury
looking,
rigged so that they work
Yep, so Dave's
in
working
accordance with
yep,
this.
Dave's
or-
working with somebody,
Right.
But the problem is that, so these people bring their own sound system, so, but
Yeah,
anyway, we'll stick
connecting
on
the two.
this, so. But,
I don't know what you guys think, but my personal opinion is after that's been drawn up, I didn't really like either one of them. Just the look even.
didn't have to be red and white. but-
Well,
But no matter what color
Better
it
than blue and
is, yeah,
white.
Or go, boom, go.
Yeah, or-
can't be doing that.
No.
It's just my opinion and everyone has got their own, but to me, it didn't really accomplish what I was thinking it would. And
Can we see that with the 15-foot trees at 6 o'clock?
hmm
Can somebody turn that? What time is the bands usually play?
Usually they start around 7,
Yeah,
7 to
9.
9.
I mean, anything past 9, there's no sun there anyway.
if the kids and stuff do things, that a lot of times is like 6.
That, the day that was the worst, in my opinion, was the day we had the grand opening. And it was end of June, really hot, and we started like 5 o'clock.
And that was earlier.
Melted
Right.
like
In the
a
year.
candle.
I mean, if we started performances at 7:30 instead of 7, and I mean, at 7:30, there's already, a decent amount of.
What's this time frame right here?
This is 7 o'clock.
7
Mm,
o'clock.
I did have 6 p.m. up. Mhm.
And that's.
This is 6 and 7. Mhm.
And then what's 8?
Way back up on the hill.
So really, you're still gonna have, any way you do it, you're really only getting an hour of good coverage
Yeah.
for the whole thing, I guess, so.
I mean, if you're having a church service there at 8 in the morning,
It's gonna be on the other side. anyway.
Right. so,
And then can you change that to 30-foot trees?
Mhm.
guys are really tasking him.
And
Thank
then
you.
6,
doing.
Magic.
That's 6,
Yes, it is. Yep, 6 o'clock.
7.
7.
See, it's almost past there now because
Yeah.
the sun has gone down
See,
And then
Adam,
what's
do
8
we
look
have this
like?
program here? I can play with it.
That computer's gonna turn on.
the battery is
Not
running
yet.
We couldn't even
low.
print a map today. We were trying to print and it wouldn't print. So
Oh, no.
Hit the blue box.
Like I think that fourth tree, in my opinion, really isn't doing anything for any of the sitting area because it's shading to the
this one over here,
northeast mostly.
Yeah. It-
But
It would provide more sitting,
It-
shaded seating area.
like
Sit
behind
under
it.
or- Yeah.
That's an engineer issue. Sorry.
really?
Cemetery.
Monk.
3, 6, 9, 12.
Now, I don't know, I talked to Paul about it and David the other day, and we talked about the thought of if there was any trees behind the path rather than in front. Does it make any difference as far as the sun layout?
It'll just where it's cast, but we can. Just move one.
She could move a tree for you.
Wow.
I got it.
Come down to my house and get a
She
head.
doesn't even need a spade.
Yes, superpowers.
See, the further back they go, then they don't cast it
Yeah,
up. on the-
Mhm.
not doing the job, you know.
The time.
So that's 6 p.m. and this is 7. You
So
know,
you
some of
lose
these
2
can
trees out of
adjust.
it. See, at 7, the whole stage in that area is there, but
Right there.
Now go back to 6.
It was-
I
You're
mean,
usually saying that they start around 7?
yeah. I mean,
6:30.
Well, can you go from
There you
7?
go.
Can you go
6:28.
7 to 8?
You know, if you're looking at that,
6:28.
think of this, where everyone sits there on those places where they built the seating
Yeah.
is pretty much all shaded now,
yeah.
all of it.
At 6
And
o'clock.
then if you were to back that up and go from if you look at this picture here, where you said the shade here,
Mhm.
where the shade from the pavilion, that whole thing would be shaded.
Right.
Now,
You
You
that,
see what I'm saying?
wouldn't
Because
overshade.
it will shade all the way out to the pavement, because they're sitting here and the shade is already out to the pavement. So that whole thing would be shaded.
So where do we want the shade? Like, do you like it back further on the path? Or where it was?
But I'm
What
thinking,
time is that
if you do that, you're gonna
At
take
6
away the sun
o'clock.
completely,
At 6.
kind of.
Where? If you
Yeah,
go
I-
back further?
Yeah, like she's doing.
What's 7?
So there's less sun for.
Well, 7 o'clock.
This is 7 o'clock.
7.
yeah,
Wow.
Then what
I know, I
day?
don't think we want to take the sun away completely. do we?
I don't
agree.
think so.
I don't think you do.
No.
So we could, and that could just be by tree placement.
Correct.
Locations.
Back up.
Because we have to take a couple things into account. What areas of the park are most likely to be utilized besides right there in the audience location for the stage? Because you're gonna wanna have clear sight lines as best we can through those areas. That'll make a determination on where those get placed. And then we can shift them around from there towards the stage and back away, depending on what shape I'm looking for. Now, we're talking about
Battery down.
30-foot tall trees here. They're not gonna come that way, right? So it's gonna take a little while to get to that point. Even if we can move a pretty mature tree, they're probably not gonna be at that size.
You can still see
You
it.
can move
I don't know.
8-inch maple, I don't know what, if you put maples there or not, but you can move an 8-inch maple, which would give you
Yeah, you probably.
22 to 25
Yeah, you're
feet, and they grow
20
pretty.
to 25 feet in there.
So
We wanna
within a
look-
couple of years, you'd have 30 foot.
Well,
Especially
those
if
trees have
it's
been long enough that Larry
fertilized.
Cook planted them. So that's how long they've been out there.
Then they're big.
They're big.
And we
Those might
think,
be too big
really?
to move.
I don't know.
We'll have to check.
Yeah, you can't move a tree any bigger than, like a 94-inch spade, can't move a tree trunk bigger than.
Well, I was talking to Jason from Van Ennis and he just said one of the problems is it's really hard to get mature trees right now. Just like everything else in the world, apparently.
Right.
We
For
ran out
some
of trees.
reason, we quit growing trees during COVID too. I don't know. But
Well, it
He-
sounds
but
like
no,
it'd be
he
good
said
to
that
have
they
somebody
ordered,
with a
like-
tree spade come out and look at what you've had to see if they can.
Well, he said he
we can
ordered
mention
like
it,
60
mention
some
it.
trees, like
That
for
would be good to know
bananas,
for
and
them.
that
That
they
way
got
at least
less than
they'll
half their order.
maybe have it
And
started.
so when Dave brought up that we had those trees out there, I'm like, well, we should look and
Well,
see.
definitely we gotta look at
Yeah,
it.
I'd like
Yeah.
to see that
And if you move them, we wanna
Structural.
move them
as far as if we could do.
now.
Right, that's what we're-
First thing in the spring,
Right.
and you trim them all back.
That's what we're kind of
Yeah.
So
looking
that
at.
the
is
shock when you
I
move
don't
them,
think we're looking at
doesn't
the
hurt 'em
big
as
picture.
bad.
It's the work that
Right
started
now,
around
we could make a
and it
decision.
rained hard.
I
That
don't,
extension will help.
I know,
keep
I
that
don't like
equipment
any of that. So that's just-
being wide open. If it came down like.
I like the tree block. That is still an option that he can come up with, and if we like it, then we can just add it. And for him to build that so much smaller, it won't, that's not half of the work, it's a quarter of it.
No one
But
else
I
can
just,
see
don't. I
that.
just think out in the park that,
That's what I
I just don't like.
That's what
I
it
don't
was
know.
really wonderful.
I think that the trees are just gonna be a
It has an
softer.
effect on how the wind
Look
blows.
better,
More
everyone,
aesthetic.
you won't get
And
the-
people, who doesn't like to just sit under a tree? I mean, it's just, people like to sit under trees, so. And we do have a lot of trees planted there already, but they're little, real little.
We just gotta put spikes.
And they're not in the
all
right spot to produce the shade
Keep the
we're looking
kids
for.
And you can pinpoint
Barb
like a little, ray will come down, burn a hole in the ground, so we know where to place that, right? I mean, she
Yeah,
can do
she's
that,
gonna
right?
push a button and then there's gonna be a tree in the park.
We can get a
No.
position on that layout, and then we could coordinate, put it into a GPS coordinate, so it could be, we could go out and stake it. if we wanted.
Oh my God. Okay.
High tech.
See, this model's built off of the survey that was done for the amphitheater in the first place, so.
Right,
So
so
it's
I
going
We
gave
have
him
all the
our,
general
Okay.
contours and everything
I
tied
gave him
into
all of
it.
our stuff.
It'll get us close enough.
Close enough. The tree, we have the one tree
They're in a
branch gets
stone's
wild
throw.
left, that's-
So if, I mean, if we were to get these planned, it's gonna be before you guys meet again, if we can move those trees. Well, where do we want the trees? If this were to go through? And,
What do you mean, where are we gonna?
I mean,
stage
where
them,
do
or
you guys want the
plant
shade?
them?
Like, you want it on that side of the path, that side of the path? You know, I mean, because they've given us, so, I mean,
What variation would you prefer?
Right.
I really like this variation, but I do think that there should be a little more sunlight in between the tree shadow.
so you guys like them on the,
I like them
what
where
do you
they're
call
at,
that, the
but
west
just-
side of the path?
I like them on the far side of the path like they are now,
No,
but just not
I
so close that there's like you're trying to
You
shade
like them
every
better in the
square inch.
amphitheater area?
On the other side of the town.
And they don't take up as, I mean, people are just gonna sit under them, so they're not really gonna take up a ton of seating area.
You think they should be closer?
I do personally. I liked where they kind of had them before, on the left side of the path as looking at it.
And we might need to take into consideration, depending on what kind of maples those are, a lot of times those have surface roots. So that could be some level of impact to what people.
Oh, where they
do
come up
around it.
and you can sit your chair on them or whatever.
Yeah, it might
Okay.
make the ground a little uneven for setting chairs, or just don't want to blanket down and sit down, might be a little bit more comfortable, but that's just all depends on which tree species.
Better than pine tree.
Yes.
They're soft
You
maples
don't
too.
get to
They're
sit under
tough-
them.
tough tree.
You really have to limb them.
Yeah.
What's your singing voice? Because if it doesn't work out, you'll have to come sing. Amen.
I'm hoping Megan can pick up on that. Are you doing okay, Megan? Did you sing?
Anybody else have
I'll
any
play
comments
guitar.
on which side to put, I mean, because if we make the call, we already built the amphitheater all wrong, so if we make the call on where to put the trees.
Well, you probably won't get as many yays on the tree planting as you will the nays, so that's just the nature of the beast.
Maybe
Just like
they're on-
these.
Maybe they're on this side of the path like you have them now, Megan, but just not so close. There we go. Maybe they're.
A little spread.
Yeah,
What time is
maybe they're-
that?
This is at 6.
Maybe they're sheltering the path. on the way.
What's 7?
They could be staggered, one,
There you
on
go.
each side of the path.
The one thing.
Oh,
if
there
it
you
was
go.
Now
on the
now you
other-
have options. You can sit in the sun if you want. You could sit in the shade.
I like that just because it's not as much
And the-
shade.
And the weather varies.
Well, that, I
Sometimes
agree with you. I
want the
think that
warm.
if you want shade, you want shade. If you don't, you know,
Well, I think the reformer wants shade.
After they go there one,
Well,
right,
that's the big
well, our
cry.
whole focus was the perform, standing up there, not so much the public.
Mhm.
It's to help the person out who's going to entertain.
That's the goal.
That's kind of the goal. And the way she has that one there now is working
That's 7
very
o'clock.
well.
What's 6 look like again?
That is 6 or is that
That's
7?
7.
This is 6 o'clock
So you still got,
they're still.
and that's 7.
Remove the third tree.
This one,
That's 4.
No, the
The
one,
third tree.
remove this one.
The one on the west side, yep.
There you go.
I would move that second one
And now
down.
take number 2 and move it just slightly closer.
Put it right about in the center of the
Nope,
amphitheater
closer
and
to
move the
the-
corner one over.
There you go.
Because that corner one's missing the amphitheater in some parts.
So now if you're sitting in a chair
Mhm,
off the path,
mhm.
if you're sitting on the seating, I call it seating because it's just, it's
Right,
grass seating, but it's
Nice.
tiered.
That's a good. layout
That's
right
pretty
there.
much covered. Right?
And you got all the sun up.
But you
between the
have up
trees.
top, you have all that. Now, if you go, I know you can't show us this probably, but the pavilion is giving shade at this time also. And I think it's coming all the way almost out to that walkway. I'm sure you can't show us that.
We don't have the building.
You don't have it.
In that model.
But if you look in this picture here, you can see the shade is going out there, just like those trees are shading. That building's doing the same thing.
yeah.
What's 6:30
Cause look
look
right
like?
here
Can you
where
do
how far
6:30?
out that shade goes.
Right, exactly.
See how far out that
6:30.
goes?
At 6:30.
That's
Or
perfect.
put it at 6:30. That's a half hour. before
So
the
that gives
performance.
everybody, to me, it gives everybody kind of an option. And it covers what we're trying to do was help the person doing the entertainment.
What size are those trees again?
30 feet.
Those are the big ones.
So how, I mean, the trees are 30 feet, but how far to the branches are we?
Those I believe are set at 10, right?
Yeah, they should be close to 10. Yep, close to 10, 9, 11.
So it's a half hour before the performance and the stages of
Megan,
shade.
you know what the drip edge is on those?
I don't know what
Is it a- is it a
other.
30 diameter as well?
Let's be, I like
Of course,
that.
they're
That's
still
perfect.
setting up in the sun.
It's about
Well, let's just do
17
half hour
foot.
before.
Is that what they need, half an hour?
Or I don't know, they might take
A lot
more,
of times they
but
show
6
up
is still
at
pretty
4
good too.
o'clock.
If you go back, it covers most of it. There's
What's the
still-
canopy size? 30,
About 35 feet.
35?
Yeah, she
Mhm.
then she talked about 17-foot radius.
Yep, about 35.
Yeah, I think they need more than half an hour of setup, and you could still be setting up in the baking heat.
What's 6? 6 o'clock?
That's 6 o'clock.
An hour before the performance.
That's pretty
Does
good.
anyone else feel that the fourth tree is just kind of sitting out there on its own or?
That's the third one.
She's only got 3 on
Oh,
there
there's a
now.
third one.
Got 3.
I think it would look funny if we got rid of that one.
Well, I don't want to get rid of it. I just wonder if it needs to be closer so that you get a little shadow, because it's really shadowing all completely off of it.
Can
the second tree go north 10 feet?
The other way.
Oh, I'm sorry. This way.
Like-
Never
like-
mind.
Like in the middle of.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Right in the middle. What does that do?
I
And then
like
maybe
where
a
you had
little,
Yeah, I think it, where we had it was perfect. That's what I mean.
no,
I
that's
thought
too
we
far,
covered
go
that.
back.
Cool.
Sorry, slow model.
Oh, that's okay.
I don't think we
Sorry.
need a fourth tree.
No, I don't
Right,
think so either.
that
We,
would be
we
great.
already have other trees out there.
And they're gonna grow.
That looks
Yeah.
good.
The best case
There you
scenario with that
go.
is,
I think he's trying to cover that one white spot. You see where, you know,
Right here? Oh, you mean in the pavilion?
yeah,
You could just kind of, get those little,
Right there.
that's pretty good right there.
And that's 6 o'clock?
Ooh,
right there.
Yeah.
yep, this is
That's
6
pretty
o'clock.
good.
So
see
there
the
might
top
be-
row.
What's 7 look like now with that layout?
I think it's,
That's most of it. but not- it's most of it.
Can you push the tree back now towards the
Mhm.
path just a little bit? Yeah, perfect.
But you can still see the rings, that's the seating,
Mhm.
in the grass.
Yeah.
See those lines?
That's 7.
So pull the third tree just a little bit further out and it will give you some more shade on the rings. No,
I
I'm
don't
sorry,
think you
the-
want that. I think if you have
Oh, I
some
thought you
that
were
are
saying-
lower, that are shaded, that's fine, and then the upper ones are
Yeah.
not. And then the up by the path is not, and then the
Up
closer
by the-
you get to the building, it is again.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
So
like
it
I
should-
said, I just think we just need to get those speakers hooked up and working, get some sound on the building. And
I think we got it. Swear to God, I think that's, and then if you could show us something that would protrude off the building mildly and help in an earlier time of day for like when the kids do their thing up there. But not extravagant as this at all.
Yeah, and I didn't bring a printout of it. We had with that sketch showing a couple of different options with 2 poles out in front of the stage.
maybe she has
Excuse
them
me,
in
in
there.
front of the concrete.
Did
What's
she
that?
pull them up?
Might be in the job file yet.
I can look.
Look, Dennis did a sketch, their hand sketches
Okay.
that showed a couple of shade features attached to the front of those.
Was this in the J drive? Do you remember, Adam?
Not the S.
S, sorry.
I just like it. I think that the biggest tree we can get, we just get them and.
And they grow from there, and that is what it is.
Yeah,
I mean,
once you plant them, you can't cut them down. They're tree huggers. Just
they can
saying.
hug it when it's laying on the ground too. Easier sometimes.
Careful, Mark.
Well, I'm just saying,
This thing's going.
because
Live.
usually it comes BTU too.
I'd look it up, but I don't have any battery over here anymore.
Well, anyway, that would give us, we don't have to worry about that so much, getting it, because it's so much smaller. And if it's something that you could put together and get back to us in,
Yeah, because we've got a. hand
Next
sketch of
month
it, we
or
don't have to build it
January?
yet. Yeah.
we could still produce that probably reasonably easy instead of this extravagant piece that was gonna
Thank you.
take you a bunch more time.
She's bringing me
Yep.
back.
I guess my only 2 cents would be those trees that you're seeing that's 35 foot wide.
Yeah,
That.
Big camping.
You're talking, if you're putting an 8-inch tree in, you're talking 30 years before it's 30 foot wide. I mean, just, I don't know if that's makes any sense or not, but 35 feet wider than this room right here.
Well,
They're only 17.
What I think really should go into that is
17 foot on one side.
Yeah.
It's 17-foot
30.
radius, but the tree's growth rate will be determined on how it's fertilized and watered. With it being in the park, it can be nurtured a little bit to be able to speed that growth up. A lot will depend too on what the species of those trees are,
Right.
because depending on that, the growth rate can be increased quite a bit.
Okay.
And that,
Okay.
I was working with Jason on that, and he said sometimes if you buy the big ones that are already potted, they've been growing in the pot, that they've actually done studies and those grow faster because they're already have a nice root system. So,
Can you, in that study, can you put an 8-inch tree with a 5-foot span? That's not, I mean, you're still talking no shade for
is that the drawing?
20
Adam?
years, I'm telling you.
Yes,
No,
I think this is the,
You might have to add a fourth tree. I mean, you have to put the fourth tree back in if it's a smaller tree, like you said. I mean,
But that's the other, the
That's what we
other
gotta figure out
theory
what size.
behind that would be that if you could still come up with a shade to shade the
You just shade the
people,
band.
the band,
Right.
Yeah,
and
right.
not
Oh,
so
yeah.
much the rest. Sooner or later, that could even maybe get removed 10 years down the road
Absolutely.
and the tree is taken over.
And honestly, I'm not saying this to
Right.
say my awning
Right.
idea is better, but if you put 4 little trees up there, you're still not gonna have any shade this summer.
Oh, no, no,
I
no.
mean.
We aren't
you're still-
hoping to put little trees, is what I'm
They're
trying to
gonna
tell
be
you.
30-foot tall.
We're looking for the
Plant-
biggest tree we can find.
Move.
That's,
Okay.
yeah, we're not looking to plant, but we already have little trees.
Okay.
Yeah, not looking for this, it won't be starting from the small 2.5 inch caliper. These will probably be
You're the
something
tree
closer
guy?
to a 6 to
No.
8.
Oh,
Were you gonna move or you have the trees?
We have the trees, yes.
Do you happen to know a span on those?
I do not, because I haven't measured.
Is that something you could get these guys just for their information?
We
Oh,
could
yeah,
just
we're
pa-
gonna-
we could just pace it off.
no, we're gonna, they're out of the lagoon. We're gonna go.
Wounds.
I just didn't want to get my Jeep too muddy
But
today.
you'll get all that information. You'll do the model of it, right? Tell us where to plan it. Once Dave gives us the
And
information.
I'm waiting
Yeah,
on
and-
information from Jason too, because he's trying to find me where I can get the biggest trees and like, even if I don't buy them from Van Ettis, he's just helping me
Cool.
figure out.
Mr. Nash lives right here in Williamsburg.
Yeah, he said he don't care who I buy them from. He's just doing the research
Right,
for
okay.
me to tell me what kinds of trees. He goes, if Nash has them, then get them from him. If we,
Right.
basically,
You might have to buy one from one place that
so
size,
Jason
one
lives
another
right here
place.
in
Because
Langsberg.
they're that
And he works
scarce.
at Van Ettis, him and his wife do. And they help us with a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah, a
And
lot of it.
he even said he would
Eddie
come
lives in
and
Victor.
fertilize them and all that kind of stuff for free and, help them grow. So anyways,
That
Free
must be your
service.
other rendition.
So, yep, so this is the hand sketch. We were looking at, there's a couple of options that are showing here, but they're really, this is set up with two posts. And then it's more like an awning style off of that, 3 triangles in most of those cases.
And that's
Megan, is there a
attached to
second
the
page
building.
that, or is that just
that's what he
one?
was trying to, he said he's got to check with the
Right.
structure.
But
I
that
do-
is attached to the building.
Yeah, we're showing it attached to the building. We're
Right.
also showing it with the ability to vent out so that we can try to allow a little bit more air through there. They still are going to operate a little bit like a sails or wing. It's gonna have some lift, so there's quite a bit that has to be taken into account for that.
But that shell down there already is. I mean, that's a sail.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
we do have these plan views too, Adam. I don't
Yep.
know if this is what you're,
That's what I was looking for. Yep. So there were a couple different options on where those sit. Then one with a single pole out front. So once you get
come
into
around
this,
here if you want.
Or would it even need to go out that far? Could it be something that's a little more condensed that just hangs off it and maybe brace back to it?
possibly that comes back to what can the structure handle? Because in this case, part of that load is being transferred out to another structure and foundation.
Right.
If it's cantilevered off of that, now you're taking all that load to the structure itself. So
Right.
it is potentially an option, but we still have to look at
Sure.
structurally what that can handle.
How far out? That must be out to the edge of that concrete. So those gotta be about 10 or 12 feet.
Yeah, it's
is
kind of
this
hard.
15 feet out?
Okay.
And then you can kind of see
think
a little
the
bit of
square
that
one looks
concrete
funny.
ring sticking out here yet.
I do too. I kind of like that other shape.
I like that.
Yeah,
More
So
conducive to what's
basically,
there.
it's a
Three
full
triangles.
hexagon.
yeah. I kind of like that one.
And it'll get a little tricky. We want to make sure that we get those set at appropriate angles, so there's still sound projection. 'Cause
That was our other
if-
concern
if you-
there.
If you get lowered too much, now you're starting to impact it, even maybe a little minor, but you're gonna still impact with the sound projection off the stage.
But.
Work on that.
You were speaking of, they're not awnings. are they?
Fine tune that.
Yeah.
They won't block
Look at
sound
what
at all.
the
No,
shade
really.
projection is for that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because it might not be worth that either.
All the sound will
I mean, or it might work very well, like I said, for the next 10 years for them, and the trees will take over in the following years.
Casey, could you tell us what that would cost? Could you give us a ballpark on that?
Can you give me some?
Yeah, we can get you the.
Give me
we
some
can get you a copy of
sizes.
the- Yep.
And, posts.
Yep.
Yep, that's really, if I get posts and footing size
Mhm.
and triangles or sail size, that's really all I would need to get you a number.
Megan, can you show us with some smaller trees?
Mm-hmm. What size tree would you like?
What do you think the biggest
More
ones you're gonna be
narrow.
able to get?
Like not as full,
Like 7.
25-foot
inch,
canopy.
not as wide of a span, but maybe just a
The
more
canopy is
narrow
pretty big.
span, like
The
2/3
tree size,
of that
what you're,
span.
what you try to do is try to get a.
Those trees seem to
biggest
be like,
base you can get.
they seem to be so grown out and the span is like quite wide on those. And we're worried that maybe the ones we plant might not have as much span.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me,
These two, because depending on what they are, they can get a lot bigger than what we have shown here too.
Right. I know, I mean, the one Dave has is maples.
Maples, like just an example.
These Maples can be really wide span.
There's only 900 different varieties.
To move that maple of that size, you're gonna have to cut a lot of the branches out of it to make it so that you can move it to transplant so that will live. So you take like 20% of the tree, the canopy out, which in this case, you're gonna take a lot of the tree off. I'm sure it's never been trimmed probably. So you're gonna take a bunch off the bottom anyway, but inside the canopy, you have to take out some of the branches so that when you move it, the shock of the tree, it doesn't kill it. So it'll take a year or two before that tree comes back to being full.
That's why I'd
a
like
full
to see
canopy.
us do it this fall, yeah, if we can.
Yeah,
You might
it would be
end up-
interesting. I could call and find out how much a 90, how big a 90-inch spade.
I mean, I'll take all the
96
information people want to give me. I mean, it's just,
Can move
Yep.
in a maple.
So maybe we
This
could
room
send
right
up
here
with
is
4
22
trees
feet.
instead of 3.
that's what we were thinking, is maybe we end up with another, if they're smaller.
That's a really big tree.
So we're gonna go around and round without knowing, so it depends on what, how they go.
But it'll get there reasonably quick, especially in a maple, like a soft maple. They grow pretty damn fast.
If it's being
If you're-
fertilized.
If you're transferring
It's reasonable.
that big of a
watering.
tree, it'll get a big canopy on it in a short period of
Oh,
time.
look, she's got all kinds of trees out there. Which one you
Oh
want?
my.
are you thinking like this size?
Those are the trees she can select from.
No, the one down from that.
This
That
one?
Yep, that one.
It's like what she had.
Mhm. Yeah, but just not quite as wide arms reaching. That's a dream. Wow, that's a cherry tree.
That's a big tree.
So it's pretty big.
That's bigger than Langsberg.
It would
Now, Casey.
surprise
Down.
me, some of those trees, I mean, in the
Now-
larger maples, they can get 50, 60 feet tall.
Oh, yeah.
We're long gone.
That's someone else's problem.
We'll be cutting it
But I
down.
think that the whole idea is right. So you put this plan into motion now because you're not gonna probably see much out of it for the next year or two or more. And then you come up with another plan that's hopefully far more reasonable to make it at least more convenient for the people on the stage. Because that truly is, the rest of us can go wherever we want to get away. We can grab a umbrella, we can this, we can whatever, but when you're standing on that thing, it is a blast. It's hot, and then you're moving around. So you can maybe, I mean, maybe you work both these in, but if you delay on the trees, you're just delaying the shade, like,
Yeah, we just
So-
find out what's the biggest tree we can move and we move
right,
it.
and you move it and
Three of
then
them.
you,
Is it three or do you thinking four?
I think 3 is
Trees.
good if they're big
Yeah,
enough.
but you just move the biggest tree you can move, and if it's once it's there for a year, if it's not enough, you move another tree in. I mean, that's not another issue. You drive another tree in,
Right.
whoop, it's the other tree.
Right, you could not do the fourth one that was out on the end, just not do that one at all.
I agree. Where she had them
You
placed
can change your
was
mind
pretty good.
later, you can add one later, but you can't take away.
pretty much.
And see, when I talked to Jason, he thought that's about where they should be when we were looking at it out there.
Yeah, I think and we're kind of maybe killing one bird, two stone, one, however that
Two
goes.
birds with one stone.
And if you can still come back to us with a rendition of the other
Mhm.
and show us what it does, like you did this, because this was great. And we can decide if we want to put that on there, whether we hang it off the building, whether we set 2 posts, whether we set one, whatever. That's up to you to show us, and then we'll make a move on that. But everybody's kind of in agreement with we like the trees, right? I mean, yeah, okay.
It
So-
seems like it.
Yeah. So. We'll need a laser beam ID to stake the 3 trees out there, and then we'll get the biggest trees we can get.
Shoot us the coordinates.
Roll out with the GPS.
Yep.
Can anybody read that? I mean, can you? Oh,
Just-
he's an engineer. He knows all about that. Yeah.
Just for information for folks, the average cost of a tree. Below 30 foot is $95 to $375 a piece. And from 30 foot to 60 foot tall is $200 to $860.
Yeah, Jason was only about $600 probably.
That's pretty cheap, 'cause I was gonna get some,
We could buy a
Trees
lot of
moving
trees
it.
for the price.
so it's $400 to move, just to move it,
Yeah,
not
I
buying
had
the
a
tree.
big tree
Which is pretty
planted,
normal.
it was,
for a 96-inch spade.
yeah, more than that. That's all I can
It's probably gonna, I mean, it's still considered, no offense,
300.
but it's not even in the ballpark of what we were.
Well, I think
Waving
the
at here.
poles, I mean, it really wasn't the sales that were gonna kill us. It was gonna be the pole.
Yeah. But we wanted it to look right too, and that just looks so much better in my opinion than these. Just does.
Well, you get a lot more coverage. I mean, as far as technically,
And then be
you
less
get more
bitches.
shade and sun filtered.
Who knows?
Well, most likely.
Well, like, you just can't please everybody. So what you do, what you can, right?
Well, this is a situation you can't really fix right away.
No.
Just, not deal with it.
If you could get us something back next month or the following, we don't, or no, in January, because we don't meet in December.
December.
On the
You can
shade,
take that off.
Yeah.
on the trees ASAP.
No pun intended.
Yeah,
Because I mean, I think that's pretty
And we'll
much a
just keep-
no-brainer to just get those trees.
I mean, he
We
can
can do
give
it.
us a price once you come up with a couple of ideas, 1 off the building and 2. Because that'll give them sales size, right?
Yeah.
And then we go from there.
Sounds like a plan.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, dream
Sorry.
over in the sky.
okay, that's okay.
Thanks, Megan.
Just wanna help out if I can.
Hopefully.
Thank you,
I think they're
Megan.
still within
Yeah,
some-
thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That was very helpful. Thank you.
We're impressed by your superpowers.
I appreciate it.
Hopefully you're at home, not at the office doing all this.
Yeah, I'm in the office, but it's not
Oh,
too far
dear.
away.
You get tomorrow morning off then.
Do they need to take any action towards it or allotment of money to move forward or anything that, if anything's a DDA want to participate in person trees, whatever, I mean, I guess.
Let's,
I think we need more information on those trees.
Well, we can't.
I know.
We're not gonna wait till the DDA
The
meets.
trees
again.
Right.
may
Well,
not-
that's what I'm trying to get to is you
Or it'll
don't
be next
have 2 or
spring.
3 months to say.
If you guys
"Wow,
wanted
this is
to
the
let's,
time
let's
to
at
move
least
trees
get like
now."
put a $5,000 deal out there, something similar to that for,
Moving trees.
buying and or at least moving the trees, or maybe a little less now.
I think that seems reasonable. You don't have any idea. We don't
Yeah, we
really
got
have
no
any
clue.
number.
If you, put trees in that big, they're gonna have to also probably be, one, they gotta be trimmed up to move them. So somebody got to do that. And then two, they gotta be staked
Right.
very well for a tree. Even though they'll be leafless, they still gotta be staked pretty good.
Fertilize and mulch.
So,
Probably, they'll probably need to check on what particular species it is. Some of those trees are better to move in the fall. Some of them are actually better to move in the spring.
spring.
And we can all reach out to tree people. I mean, I don't care who,
Yeah.
I mean,
It doesn't matter.
I do.
But if
I
we
do
got
have one
funds
in motion.
available and he knows it and he can jump on it and we can say, just do it.
Well, that's what my
Then we
point
can-
was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be that much if you don't think,
I
but
mean, if they
if
say don't
it was
move till
$1,000 a
spring,
tree or even 1,500 a tree, there's 4,500 bucks.
Staking and
Yeah.
fertilizing.
Yeah, I would say 5 because I'm imagining just the trucking of the trees, even just excavating, lifting, trucking, hauling.
Why are you sounding cheap all of a sudden?
5,000, I think that seems reasonable.
Motion,
Sure.
he
Motion,
moved,
yeah,
$5,000. Yeah,
fancy trees,
second,
move some.
Second.
anybody?
What's my motion say?
she's
What
right.
Mark said.
She's right.
That you guys will give up to $5,000 towards, purchasing, moving trees for the amphitheater.
To trade, yeah, that.
3 to 4 trees.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I can make a couple, I know Nash doesn't have that big of a spade,
Okay, so,
and we want the biggest tree we can get,
yeah,
basically.
Yeah, we'll look around that. When we moved that pine tree from Greg's, that guy came out right.
Well, I know Dudley's got some big ones, and this gal that, she's got a 96, and the other, that's the biggest one in Maine. I can call her. I know. She's out of Mason.
I just sent a text to Rick.
Yeah, he'll know somebody, that's true, yeah. Maple tree or, maples are kind of soft and they're a little brittle, but
Yeah.
they grow fast.
I can check the offices to.
Locust trees
Which
are-
trees may be
Yeah,
a good fit for that, because. we've got
something
some
that's
landscape
got a bunch of
architects
spikes on it, probably real spiky, big needle,
Sharp.
sharp. Keep the kids off.
Yeah, I would wrap them in barbed wire.
Okay, let's go back to our meeting.
all right, thanks, guys.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Motion to
Megan.
approve the September 27th minutes.
Support.
all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? You have her treasurer's report then?
Nope.
No, we don't have a treasurer's report. We'll,
Table it till next meeting.
yep, we'll take care of it next meeting. The match on Main, I think we've gone over
Yep,
everything on that. Annual conference downtown revival.
Anybody want to go?
Is this the thing you talked about last year that you said you'd bring back up again that you did or no?
I did the virtual one, right, Sharon, but is this different than that?
Nope, this is the same. It's an annual conference with the Michigan Downtown Association. And is it virtual or in person? I think it's virtual.
Oh, is it? Since
I-
we are back, I thought that's kind of-
Registration vendors
I
expo
think
in
it's in
Detroit.
Detroit.
Oh, that's,
So-
oh, that's in person, yeah.
Yeah, welcome to Detroit.
So sometimes I go, sometimes I don't. This year I'm not going. Last year I did go.
I mean, I attended that virtual one and I just thought, just listening, not even,
Yeah,
for-
it's
I
good.
did get a lot of really good information out of there. I mean, one of the ideas that they had, for the winter was like putting straw bales over here.
That was what you-
And
I
like
remember
cute
you
little
said.
seating areas, and you could do those, like fire things that, like they're propane or whatever. People could watch their kids sled and just kind of little outdoor things that
Propane heaters, you mean?
yeah, like it's like tall,
Yeah.
or you could do little ones
I
or
looked
whatever,
at one last week.
but you could make little seating areas out of straw and put the you know, that propane thing in there and have a cute place for people to sit and watch their kids go sledding. You know, just,
This is a 2-day event.
I actually think every year it would be really good if you had one DDA board member go
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah.
And it's
so I think, I mean, I just think
whether
it's,
whether you go or not,
Yeah.
you have at least one other board member also go.
but it's, I mean, it's next week, pretty much at this
Right.
point, right? I mean,
4th and 5th.
Yeah, you don't need a lot of, I mean.
Yeah.
The hardest part is the hotel reservation, the state of. Hotels are kind of expensive.
but I mean, this, the DDA or the city or whatever, we can cover training, so, and it would, the, you know, the accommodations,
Does it?
so.
Good. Then I think we should send something.
Well, it's 15 bucks.
No.
That's for your lunch.
Oh,
That's for your,
$15 with my
that's for your
registration.
wrap.
Oh, it's 100. Oh,
$225.
non-member.
But for 2 days, it's really, you're getting a lot for that.
And we could, I mean, what is a membership, Sharon? Do you know?
Like 150.
I mean, so even if we, if the DDA became a member, then we would get these cheaper.
I'm a member,
Right,
but I don't know.
but I don't know that.
It's $100 if you just go to 1 day,
Yeah,
either
I
the
see
4th
that,
or the
yeah.
5th.
I think you should spend 2 days on that.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
November 4th and 5th are
They're
not.
already booked.
Well, November 4th is booked for a meeting if we have to have it, right?
True that.
So the 5th.
We could have our meeting in Detroit.
Yes, we all should go.
There you
We
go.
should all go.
Anyways, I
I
just
wouldn't
think
mind
that,
going
you
actually,
know,
but.
you
right
guys should
now
watch
would be the
these
worst
things
time
and
in
if,
the world
you
to
know,
do it.
you want to go that, I mean, I don't know if they're gonna tape it or have any virtual options, but just what I watched last year, I attended that one and I felt like there were a lot of good sessions, so.
They're
And
always-
sometimes you just read what sessions are available and, you know,
And this is at the Motor City Casino and Shop, right?
looks
That
like
what
it.
says?
Yeah.
Just
Or
a
that
place to
means-
hang out.
So then it looks like everything's in the same location, so that's.
Honestly, it's a lot of fun because you get to talk to other, like,
Yep.
you know, DDA board members from other cities and social environments.
be
It's
good to
really
do.
kind of fun.
Anybody want me to book it?
How much is the gambling expense?
Let me see.
I don't think they've ever gave me any.
Rosemary has the checking account now,
Well, better take her
Not
along. You better take her
landlord.
along.
not landlord. I can't go, but I would love to go actually. It would be fun.
Just an introduction. I keep trying.
If anybody's interested,
And the Detroit events are well attended usually.
I wish there was a virtual option because
Yeah,
I
yeah,
do
me too.
really enjoy, I mean, a lot of them now are doing both, which is kind of cool. So,
We just talked about all of that meeting.
yeah.
I think that's it. Anybody got anything else? Dave, you got anything? No? We'll get some supper.
Yeah, you do. And you can't move them as easy as her.
No. I'll take my pen and try.
Oh, yeah, that's all. Are we done, Cassie?
Jeez,
Cassie?
I'm ending now.